So today we'll be talking about women mining, community rights, and also strengthening women's leadership. And when I was going through this topic, so many things were going through my head from the about women riots and the whole thing, the whole events over years that have led to celebrating the International Women's Day. And in that quest for gender inequality and empowerment, we cannot overemphasize that women's leadership is a cornerstone. So it's imperative that we always will continue to talk about this issue, advocate for women, amplify the voice of women. So today we'll just go through I want it to be very interactive. So if I can see comments and, as we keep talking in the short time that we'll have here today. So we will talk about women, the issues, introduction, and why focus on women, and also talking about the barriers that are impeding on women's, especially communities. Why are women not there where we expect them to be? We know that very well that women work in various mining settings, from large scale to artisanal and small scale mining. But across the two parts of the areas, the large scale and artisanal mining, women still encounter significant barriers to, to fill up and get the right support in the face of challenges. They lack mentorship, they lack career development. For instance, I'm National Secretary of Women in Mining, thanks to Honorable Janet Adeyemi, who in God's wisdom saw the pain, but it was not just the pain of the women in Plateau that she saw, but also across career women. And we see that women mining organizations have played a very critical role in promoting women's advancement. Yes, the programs, the narrative, and the women in mining is still underfunded to date. Women in mining still face many obstacles, even with recent improvements across, from lack of opportunity to lack of opportunity to access to training or education. The main challenge is because mining related skills is mainly seen to be as mostly should be for the male. However, we've seen women too who have also, in the face of whole of these challenges, they have made significant stride in their career. So I would just want to talk about that, introducing this topic. Why are we doing this? To empower women in mining host communities to lead and advocate for their rights. If we don't, we might not always be there, but if we can empower one woman at a time, then we will know that their voice will be amplified, and we will see that they can also lead and advocate for their own rights. In ASM, women make up to 30% globally. Research says so, that women make significant share in the workforce, though they are often undercounted due to the sector's informal nature, because mining ASM can be classified into various aspects, the ones who are nomadic in nature and the ones who are indigenous. But many a times, the women are not as nomadic as the men. So women, even though we still find them move from one community to the other, for instance, in Plateau, where I reside, you find the women, sometimes you find them in Rio. When you go back again, there's no activity there. They've gone somewhere else. Maybe they are in Dong or somewhere in Kokop community. That's where you find them. But again, women typically are concentrated in the labor-intensive, low-paying and hazardous roles, such as the mineral processing, the transportation, and the trade. I will give you instances where we speak today that in Plateau, because I happen to work with this women, instances of women who have on their own, like Jumai, she's in Jos and she's now doing mineral processing. Jumai is able to now to wash on her own 30 tons of for looking for tin. 30 tons. So what she does for people now is to accept for people to bring their materials and she washes them. She's able to wash those materials for them. Now, how did she start her story? So I'll just give that story to give us a picture of what people like Jumai go through. She said when she went to start working at, out of poverty, trying to survive, trying to feed her children, and even pay her rent, she went into mining host community to the mining site to look for what to do. And when she got there, she found that these women, if you have pictures, they come together like 10 of them, covering one pit. Now, some of these women might run across different pits because they want to earn from both sides. And Jumai said when she got there, the men will first tell her, you don't come here and squeeze your face, you need to smile. So for those who are smiling are those who they are liking to work with. For somebody like her who doesn't want to smile, they become very hostile to her. And while she was doing that, she now said, why would she continue to just work? At the end of the day, she's going to get maybe 1,200. Because when they pull the bucket full, which is about 80 kg of the ore minerals that they are mining, then the women get one bucket. So that one bucket is what the women, 10 of them will share. And she felt, why would she continue to do that? And the next thing she did was to now begin to dig her own pits. So Jumai owned pits, and at the end of the day, she had people working for her. So her husband, after saving money, her husband took away 1.5 million naira of her money, and marriage ended. However, Jumai did not stop there. She's still doing what she likes to do, which is now she wishes every day if she can get support to be able to buy equipment to wash this material and process better. So ASM presents both the risk and the opportunities. This creates a very complex dynamic that mining can give us simultaneously empower and also exploit these women. So how can we solve that problem? So now, when we also look at it, this is now the ASM. Coming to community rights, the women are most of the time excluded in the conversation of issues that concerns benefit sharing, issues of land, issues of community development agreements. When I worked as special assistant to the Honorable Minister, and of course, my role also was to see communities sending in, because one of the requirements is that communities must send in the names of the community representative that would sign the CDA. I don't think I've ever seen any woman's name in that list. Also, again, I've had an experience where we're in Niger State and we're going to have a town hall meeting. None of the women were invited. When I now asked, the men said they didn't think it was necessary to invite the women. And we had to now start doing another advocacy to tell them it was important to have the women. You can't speak for them. They can speak for themselves. And that's why we're here today, to see and to ensure that women, the mining, thank God now that the Nigerian Mineral Mining Act is going through a review. I hope that we can rally around to ensure that women are captured in this whole review of the policy that governs the mining sector. Why is it important that women's leadership? Because often women are disproportionate impact of often bears this disproportionate impact of mining, but often excluded from the decision making. Women's leadership, if strengthened, community advocacy and ensures more inclusive and equitable outcomes. When we empower women leaders, They can drive sustainable development and right-based approaches, especially when it comes to mining context. Why focus on women? The impact, when we cut across from going from Ebonyi State to Niger State to Bauchi to Zamfara to Jos to Plateau State, the experience are quite different. But one thing that is very significant is that women have reduced access to land because women don't have the money to own land. Some cultures do not even allow women to own land. The increased workload, women are just mainly seen to be either ones working, carrying the whole load, or working in the processing center, or seen in transportation. The health risk from water contamination. We have clear examples from what happened in 2010 in Zamfara with the lead poison. Even up to date, the issue of exposure to certain toxic materials in Plateau State is still there and is recorded, but no one is speaking about it till date. The economic dependence. Women are the ones who most of the time carry the load of their family, but yet the impact of mining is seen clearly on these people. Yet they are still underrepresented in community development agreements, negotiation with mining companies, local leadership structure, decision-making committees. You hardly find women seated there. And we have seen that if we can use the rights of the free, prior, and informed consent project affecting their land and resources, we see also that in EIA, every component where we should be able to have women seated in those rooms, but yet it's not so. So women also have rights to the free, prior, informed consent. Women have rights to environmental protection. Women have rights to benefit sharing and fair compensation. Because at the end of the day, the most vulnerable in communities are women. So the mining impact to communities cuts across from environment to social to economy. And women's rights in mining contexts are not limited to participation in decision making, but often they are the ones who face the heightened risk, gender-based violence, unequal access to benefits. For instance, there were times in Ayodor, somewhere in Panshin in Plateau State. The community leader at the time said they had to shut down the mining because while they were mining garnet in that community, they had to, the people, of course, mining attracts all sorts and all kinds of people, cutting from people, you see people from Senegal or Mali come into those spaces. And when they come in with different vices. When they shut down Zamfara mining, most of the miners in Zamfara moved to Osun State. And the community began to experience a total difference in their culture. Things changed for the community people. So, what are these barriers? Okay, what leadership skills? Sorry. Okay, women leadership, empowerment and leadership. How do we now empower these women? Building their confidence and skills for women to participate in decision making. Very important, very key, because I've seen in Nasarawa State where the organization where I work with empowered women through trainings, and we saw the change where these women felt, oh, we didn't know about this thing. We didn't know we could speak up. They were never invited, but now they are empowered with knowledge to be able to ask questions, to be able to see for themselves what is rightly and what should not be accepted. If they are not empowered, they wouldn't have a voice. And they will not, even when they have a voice, they will not know what to speak or what to deliberate or what to do when they get into that room. So access to information, very key. The good book said that my people perish for the lack of knowledge. This knowledge is information. When people have no access to information, they are blind and they become deaf. They can't hear, they can't see. They lack access to resources and to network for advocacy. The platform, thanks to Global Rights, the tremendous work they're doing, You hear cases of how global rights stood for the people, communities in in Gombe, at Ashaka, and in Kogi State. These things don't end. It begins to multiply. Those voices that were trained begin to multiply, and their children or people around begin to see that this is not rightly so, or this is so, or this can be done. So addressing gender inequalities and barriers in mining communities. Like I said earlier on, when you go across to different communities, different things happen, or how it is addressed. Where you go down to Zamfara, the women lack education, the issues of insecurity is also frightening, and people cannot really participate as they should. But that should not also be a barrier. When people are not economically empowered, they lack the courage to speak up. So leadership skills is now, what would it entail? Community organizing and mobilization. When women are not even present in such places, the equation is not balanced, and it cannot be balanced. So women have significant role to play, be it even in conflict resolution, be it also in speaking about even the issue of insecurity. Women have a role to play, very significant role to play. So leadership skills for women should be enhanced, should be encouraged, and should be very effective. Strategic planning for sustainable community development, negotiation and advocacy for rights. That's, we cannot overemphasize on it. So what are the barriers to women leadership? Patriarchal norms and gender stereotypes, where women are said that should sit at the back and not speak. I think for the first time in my life, I experienced the issue of this gender inequality was when I was supposed to go do a community development agreement negotiation. And next thing, the job was canceled because I was told I was a woman, that women cannot speak in those rooms. I think for the first time, I understood when you talk about the issues of segregation. Also, I don't understand why I won't be able to speak. And even if, yes, I know that at that particular point, I wouldn't be able to speak, but why should the job be taken away from me? Limited access to land and resources. We all know that in the southeast of Nigeria, women don't own land. But I'm happy that that is changing as well. So lack of legal literacy, we don't know. When women don't know their rights, they don't know what to speak, they don't know what to do. Economic dependence, low representation in community committees. So if women are not invited to that room, I think now women are trying to make sure that they are there. I just have this quote to say, institutional reforms are necessary to ensure women's representation in governance structure, affirmation, action measures. We can no longer begin to just say it at the side. We must make it to become a very significant component that should matter, and everyone should be there. When you go for conferences, they want to make women in mining's events or women's events a sideline event. It shouldn't be a sideline event. It should be a major event as well. The strategies for strengthening women's leadership are capacity building and leadership development. We must continue to, not a one-off, but we have to repetitively do that, ensure that it goes in cycles, because we keep doing that to strengthen the system. Legal literacy and rights education, inclusion quotas for community committees, support for women economic development, also to partner with NGOs and government agency. So most of these agencies should be strengthened. Not like women should be, it's like, it's not a favor, but it's something that is very prerequisite that should be done. Gender sensitive mining policies, for instance, where in the labor law that says women should not be allowed to go underground. I don't think such kind of law should still exist. Women should be given equal rights and be allowed to speak and make such decision for themselves. could that be all? So what are my recommendation? We should ensure that women's representation in mining governance structure. We should also ensure that to integrate gender across policies, programs, and operation. We should support women-led cooperative and advocacy group. And I will stop to say that we've seen when I went to Jos, when I moved to Jos, I realized that there were no women-owned cooperative when we went to the Ministry of Solid Mineral Development. They only had, male registered NGO cooperative. And when we asked, among even that, women were not part of the executive. So what we had to do was to now begin to register those women and now, ensure that we built the capacity of such cooperative because they needed to know why they're there. And now include to them the VSLE concept, which for financial literacy. And I will tell you that those women are doing very well. They've been able to grow their money, and of course is to keep encouraging them to do so. So strengthening enforcement of community rights and environmental standard. I've seen also that when we make these deliberate policies, for instance, some years ago, there was this GWAY where they wanted women to also participate in procurement processes. Like there were no women-owned companies that were bidding for road construction projects and all of those things. Even local economies where when companies go to local, to rural areas to work, how can they use such projects to also empower women-owned businesses around those communities? I think such things should not have been a one-off. It should be something that should be continued. And because in doing that, why we do that, we're also empowering communities, because when you empower a woman, you also empower a nation. And I also like what Women for Women International are doing, empowering, building the capacity of women to not just fight the issues of insecurity and build their capacity, to also begin to participate in elective position, or councillors or whatever, local community policy, local politicking. So I think such should be encouraged, because when we empower women, the strength that they come in with is usually very very deep. Women have, because when you give them, even when they have those, they are limited to representation in leadership, they still have voices, they still know what to do. So importantly, women experience might not be uniform, but they can shape by intersecting factors such as income level, the geography, education, and also social norms. So we cannot stop. It's not a one-stop shop, but we must make it very diverse, and to also be able to bring everyone inclusivity, where every woman, everyone matter, not just for some people, but everyone across board. So I would want to stop here and take questions. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Ms. Emily. Everybody's voice matters, especially the voices of women. And empowering women is something that's going to multiply. It's usually not just a one-off event. They tend to trickle it down and step it down. But before we open the floor for everyone to speak, we have our executive director in the room. Ms. Abby, I don't know if you'd like to speak, if you'd like to say one or two things before we open the floor.
Oh, I guess we could open the floor and then I could speak afterwards.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, ma'am. All right, so if you have any questions, comments, remarks, please use the chat box. Thank you.
While people are, so I'm sorry, AJ, you might need to mute. There's somebody speaking in your background. While we're waiting for people to, you could also raise up your hand if you want to ask questions, and then you would be giving rights to speak. I just wanted to say thank you so much to Mrs. Ofodile and thank her for the role. It's not just in the things that she has said today. Thank her for the role that she has played in highlighting and spotlighting issues of women and how mining impacts women. As you know, at Global Rights, we focus more about mining host community rights, who are at the end beyond profit making, who are the people impacted by mining, who are the people in the community. It is often very easy, and just like Mrs. Sofodile said, that it is often very, very easy for people to um, just generalize everyone. And sometimes that when we say women, and we highlight issues concerning women, there's that silent, why must everything be about women? Let me just reiterate, just as Mrs. Ofodile has said, that mining affects women differently. And it's not just about mining affecting women differently. There's a reason why this month is International Women's Month. It's about the way women have been treated for hundreds, possibly thousands of years as people in the background, as not quite equal with the rest of the human race, which is with the men, and that their issues are often left unattended. Let me just make a very simple medical analogy of how women's issues are left unattended. There's been a lot of research around prostate cancer. The amount of money that goes to researching prostate cancer cannot be compared to the amount that goes into breast cancer, even though breast cancer is more common. And as you know, one is a male problem and the other is a female problem. The other is that because of our biological and sociological constructs, that women are often not seen and their issues unheard. Your issue will be heard more when you have more power. And most of the power lies with people, one, who control the money, two, who control the politics, three, who control the public spaces. So, for example, many years ago, in Zamfara State, when the lead poisoning had first broken out, and I had gone to Zamfara I believe it was in 2010, that the very first time I went into Zamfara, and I spoke with the men. Rather, I was invited to speak with men, and they all had the same story. But eventually, when I gained access to the women, and here's a funny story about what happened in Zamfara. When I'd first gone to Dareta, the village in Anka, I was told that I could not speak with the women. And I was stumped. I was speaking with men. Why can't I speak with the women? And they said, you are a man. Don't you know that you are a man? And I looked at myself, biologically female, and in every sense, even in the way in which I identify myself and the way in which I dress, I'm female. What would give these men the idea that I am a man? I'll tell you what I think that they were thinking at that point in time. They felt that I should be honored, that they thought I was a man because it seemed to be a higher category of human beings. Very sadly, that they also thought that I couldn't have that much agency, the power to make my own decisions, and I couldn't have that much power as executive director of a human rights organization who controlled a budget by herself and was able to decide to travel by herself to Zamfara State, that you have entered into and you make decisions sitting along with men on mining again, that you must be a man. And of course, that this impacted the way in which I was able to hear the women till I was finally given access to speak to the women. And when the women spoke about the poisoning, they spoke very differently from the men. They were very, they knew what the symptoms were. The men were the ones who took the children to the hospital, but the women were the ones who observed the symptom and were able to immediately relate it to the lead poisoning, to the gold nuggets that came into the homes. The men thought it was diarrhea, it was an outbreak of dysentery and otherwise. But let me stop. But that begins to tell you the beginning of how things are seen differently. In Ebonyi State, where we went and then, we met with different community groups and met with the women as well. Women told stories of how they lost their land to mining, Royal Salt then. I think they're called First Patriots or something now. And that they did not receive compensation, even though the men did. Why? Because they were farming their husband's property and not their own. And so you have all of these issues that are very, very regular with women. Again, I think I'm talking a little too much. I'm going to take a pause. I think that people are ready with questions. Is that right, AJ?
Yes, ma. Yes, ma.
All
Some
right,
people have
so
indicated interest.
okay, let me bounce. Thank you. And again, welcome everyone. And again, Mrs. Ofodile, I can't thank you enough. Thank you. Thank you for all you do, not just for women, but for our nation.
Thank you, ma.
Thank you very much, ma. There's a Yakubu who raised his hand to ask questions. I don't know, Mr. Yakubu, are you still on the call? Do you still have comments to make or the question to ask? Mr. Yakubu, I think that's Yakubu.
Hello,
Okay, all right.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Quickly, I wasn't able to sign in time because of network issue, but I wish to state clearly that the inclusion of women in all space of life, especially giving her opportunities of her exhibiting her expertise, just like the men, is apt, and we must encourage it going forward. And sorry, we some of us came in very late, and the one of these presenter have presented, but maybe if we can have some of these soft copies through our mail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yakubu. Yeah, slides will be shared to the mails of participants. And Miss Emily, I also wanted to say, have you mentioned about with the people who control the money and who control the politics? And it makes me think about the issue around community development agreements and women's participation around community development agreements. And beyond even that, when funds are generated, women's participation on the boards that manage such trust funds. So I don't know if you would like to just throw a little more light around that area so that the women's participation, maybe, for example, enlighten us on what the state is doing currently, maybe like around the procedures and just things that the state has done to improve women's participation, ensuring that they're able to control some of the monies that should be accrued to mining host communities and also get involved in the politics of mining host communities. So if you can just shed light on, okay, what is obtainable now and maybe what can be done to better improve it. I don't know if you heard me, because it looks like my network is...
Yeah, I think I heard you, AJ. I think, again, we have to thank what the federal government and also Center LSDD, because there's a new guideline on the issue of CDA, which, of course, women are represented in the new CDA guideline. However, it cannot just stop with that. It has to be enforced, because when things are not enforced deliberately, right, then it's just going to be on paper and no effectiveness to that. And to change the narrative, it means that even the law guiding the sector has to be deliberate to speak about the issue of women. We can't run away, because from whichever side of the table you sit, you cannot, not understand, or the issues of women are common to everybody, no matter where you're sitting down. So I think when it comes to that compensation, and so it has to be something that has to be policy guided, and like to drive, which is something I even didn't add in the conversation in my slide, but it was in my head. If you go through the AMDC, that is the African Mining Vision, and the strategy, the African Mining Strategy document for 2020, because it's a document for agenda to 2063, right? It is an essential pillar, right, for the effectiveness to implement. Women are the essential pillar to effectively drive the African Mining Vision. So for us to have that compensation is not, when we go to communities, you will still hear, it's written there that women should be there. And if women are not there, if we have just one woman, how would her voice be if she's seated with other 6, in maybe 7 names are there or 7 committee, and she's the only one woman is there? I think we have to now spell out the quota, of how much women, 35%, 20%, but it cannot be 1%. Thank you. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you very much. I really love what you said. It cannot be 1%, which is what we're even seeing with our National Assembly currently. What the representation of women there is very low. So in the chat box, there's a question from Irene David Arinze. He or she says, are there protective mechanisms for women while mining on the field? I am privy to a case of a woman who had a Chinese boss who had concluded with the task for the day, but the man who was using a borrowed license insisted they head back to Abuja. On their way, they were attacked by bandits. She got shot on the arm twice and bled profusely till she was unconscious. In summary, the boss ran off and flew back to China. She had to foot her bill and had no law to use in order to fight for herself. So, Ma, did you hear the question? Miss Emily?
I was speaking without unmuting. I heard the question. So I think it's going to have to be, it's already a legal issue. So, and I think this is now where FIDA, where organizations or even the community, because for you to be able to track people, even if it's borrowed license, the person must have a name, and we have Chinese embassy in Nigeria. So I think it has become, for me, that's the angle to what I see, but maybe there's another better angle to how it can be resolved. So because usually mines workers, they have a union, and that's why all of these non-actors need to be empowered, because it's only when they're empowered then they can be able to do something, because they become catalysts to ensure that things like this don't happen.
So there's a need to, this just goes to show that there's a need for more empowerment of women. So another question, Busayo or Biasa King says, how do we coordinate ourselves as women to address issues facing women in our state? I am from Osun State, and what I see around bothers me a lot. And I think we need a group to be able to address these issues.
Okay, there's women in mining group in Osun State, and I think they're doing quite a good work. We have them, the coordinator there, she's very vocal. However, it shouldn't just stop at that. I think I'm also proud to see the issues of how things have degenerated in Osun State. Years ago, before the Zamfara shutdown, the people of Osun State didn't even understand what mining was because they were not into mining. And just a few years after, everywhere is mining. The amount of environmental degradation in Osun State is something else. The Chinese came down, there's a river, is it in Bala or Obokun? They came and they stopped the flow of water in Obokun. So these issues now, women have to come together, because it's when we all agree to work together, then we can make good progress. So it's one person has to ensure that even if I'm the only voice, we will continue to speak and we will call out. And thank God for social media now, that now people are so quick to use their phones to make video or make live videos of issues. I think when we continue to speak, then we will attract the people that should come to our rescue. So the people in Osun State, the women there, I think we can begin to, the Ooni of Ife was at the Gem and Gold Women in Mining Conference, and he has said that he will support. So I think the people of Osun women can go to him. He has promised that he would help. So it's now to call out and see that his word as a king does not fall to the ground. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Even if, like you said, even if I am the only voice, we should continue to speak, but I do believe in us speaking together. So please, despite the work that you do around the degradation in your community, reach out to organizations like Global Rights who are dedicated to ensuring the protection of members of mining host communities across Nigeria. There's a question that keeps popping up. I don't know who the writer is, and but the question is not very clear. It came with a typographical error and it went off. So I don't know who it is. So if you can't just rewrite the question, the question was about women organizing around sectors or something like that. If you can just rearrange what you wrote, and then we can ask the question. Okay, Olushola raised their hand. Olushola, if you can hear me, if you have the mic, you can ask your question. You can unmute and ask your question.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, can hear you.
Okay. I'm not having a question. I want to contribute. I'm sorry I came a bit late, but I was able to hear some of Emily's presentation. I am the Advisory Council member, International Women in Mining. I mean Women in Mining Nigeria, and I have stake Women in Mining Africa. I worked in the Ministry of Solid Minerals for over 30 years. When we were working there, our promotion was okay, but the moment they discovered that we got to the directorial level, in fact, I was one of the first set of women to get to the directorial level. The moment they discovered that they started doing all sorts of things. So when you look at it, Ministry of Solid Minerals, women in the mining communities, it starts from somewhere. Women should be more involved, even in the ministry. Then the mining communities should involve women, because women are the ones that are negatively affected. They and their children, they are more affected than any other person. By the time I retired, I lost about 12 years to no promotion, and it was deliberate. It was a kind of gang up by the men. So it gave me the energy, and I said, I cannot keep quiet. I didn't have a mentor. I have to start to mentor the young ones. We old women, the older ones, we should not keep quiet. And as Emily has said, we must raise our voice. We just have to be heard so that things can get better for the next generation. By the time I started, I didn't even know. I just stumbled into it and now said, I cannot, all these things that I've gone through, I cannot keep quiet. I have to mentor the ones that are coming. And the number of them that I have mentored, they are spread all over the world, and I have not stopped. So I will want to tell us women, we have to raise our voice. We have to be heard. We can't sit behind when decisions are being taken on the table. We have to be part of the decision-making bodies. We must sit on the table to make the decisions. And we make sure that no one is left behind. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mentor the young ones and ensure that no one is left behind. There's a question from, There's a question from Mata Onose. She says, thank you so much all. My question is on the participation of women in all sectors. How do you handle the case of selection of wrong women participants for representation. We have a case in communities where sisters and friends are sent to represent without them having basic knowledge of what the process is all about.
I think also it has to also do with empowering people to know, because if we're not empowered to understand most of this issue, it's just like what Global Rights is also doing, training journalists on narration, how to, narrate the stories of the issues that are in extractive and all of that. So it also has to be with deliberate making and understanding who should represent you. So when you have the wrong people representing you, you also can write to tell the people who have selected these people why those people cannot be. The issues that have happened to us around with us in Nigeria is that we just let things slide all the time. We keep allowing things to slide and things keep regenerating because nobody is speaking, because everybody just feels who will hear me. But we would not stop speaking. We have to, there has to be an awareness. There have to be stronger advocacy. So if you know that the people who are representing you do not have, sometimes to why they are there, you can now begin to see how to, educate those people too. Because if you can't remove them, what do you now do? Is to educate the people there to say, this is what you should be speaking about. This is what our problems are, so that collectively we will not look like we're pull down syndrome, because sometimes that's what they will say, women, they are the ones who will pull down another woman. So if we think that those people are not well, informed to represent you, educate them so they can now begin to change their narrative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Educate them so that they can change their narrative. Mr. Moses Adedeji says, Global Rights Nigeria should collaborate with State Ministry of Women Affairs across 36 states in Nigeria to jointly organize workshops for women to sensitize them on their rights concerning mining, particularly signing of CDAs and other areas that they grossly neglected them. Moses Adedeji, Executive Director, Trees on Earth. Mr. Moses, thank you very much for your comment. But I'd also like to add that since you have participated in this training, I think that you're also in a position to do a step down. So we all share the collective responsibility of training the women around us and ensuring that they're able to have agency, especially around extractive issues. Also, Olumide Olaniyon asked a question: how do you ensure that women with disabilities are not left behind? What methods are you using to address the issues of intersectionality?
I think to that question, I think is inclusivity, because we always have most of the events from Adziva, we always have women we also pay close attention to women living with disability, right? Because they have a voice. And I've seen stronger group actors in that part of us whose voice are heard and who have the clout to speak. They have such network. They are able to speak. So we always include them. And I've seen that with Global Rights as well in many events where they are invited. So it's inclusivity, deliberate inclusivity, because as much as they live in those communities, they also have their rights, and their right must be protected. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. My inclusivity is key. Mr. Ekpeyong Edet, you have your hand raised. You can unmute and ask your question.
Thank you very much. Please, mine I have already sent in the chat, but I think you didn't see it. Well, I wanted to find out if there's actually a standard. You go to a mining communities, you have committees there, but often you see men coming out. I don't know. In the committee, do we have a standard, that should take care of women representation? Say, for example, if the committee is made up of 10 persons, what number, perfect number, should constitute the number of women? Thank you very much.
To CDAs and community rights, the law says about not less than 3 and not more than 7, I think. So that will also be according to how the community is structured. For instance, there are some community that have a community development association, right? So usually those association members are the ones who sign CDAs. Where they do not have, they begin to select people among themselves to represent. So the law, that's what I'm saying, that we have to ensure that the law states, the law can change the way it's interpreted, to have that this number of women, maybe 2 women among the 7, or you have 3 women among the 7, but there has to be a deliberate interpretation to what the law is saying or what the statement is interpreting. Otherwise, we will not have any woman at all. And that is what we will not encourage at this point in time. So the law hasn't specifically said, so, and that's why we have this training now, that when women are empowered, then they begin to come out, because a lot of times the women are not invited. They don't even know what is happening. So when women are empowered, they begin to ask questions, and the right questions, to the people who would give them answers. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Ma. And we have a question from Nathan Williams. He has 2 questions, actually. So the first question is, who is responsible for sensitizing women in host communities to improve inclusivity? And how can those women with the voice speak with the voice to speak, be protected and supported to achieve participation of women in mining? And then his second question is, what is being done to correct the impression that women should not have representation in mining governance? I don't know if you got the question, or should I read it again? Because
Please take it again.
okay. So his second question is, what is being done to correct the impression that women should not have representation in mining governance? While his first question is, who is responsible for sensitizing women in host communities to improve inclusivity, and how can those women with the voice to speak be protected and supported to achieve participation of women in mining?
Okay, so I would think that in my mind right now, I'm saying for women to be able to have their voice heard, and for women to be able to speak up and be protected, first is that the culture that embraces diversity, right, to have these women participate and aggressively opposes to prejudice must be established, because the cultures and norms that has made women feel excluded, that is what we are trying to see, that that should be shoved away, and we begin to have women in the right places. Now, if women are informed, they will speak better. When you are not informed, then you could make a mess of yourself on what you're asking for. When mining companies are coming, you won't go there asking for, asking for money to go for wedding. You will go there asking for either road to the market should be part of the CDA, or government should do that, or you're asking for schools to be built, or libraries, or the health center should be, a working primary health center. So who should do that? You and I. Global Rights is doing that. And while we have called everyone here, we haven't gone. Now, most people in the communities might not be seated here in this room this afternoon, but you and I, who can reach out to those community, can be empowered to be able to speak to them that this is existing. And when you speak to them, then you begin to hear their issues, their needs, and we begin to now frame what programs, what will work in those communities, because every community is very peculiar. They have peculiarities to what is common to them. So I think that's the only way we become change makers, we become champions, we become agents of amplifying the voices of these people, these women. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Interestingly, Mr. Nathan Williams is from Classic FM, so he should know better about being an agent of amplifying the voice of women. So, Abby, you wanted to speak to us while people were writing in the comments. I don't know if you still have comments or thoughts you would like to share before we maybe take a final word from Miss Emily and we close.
Oh no, I think that it's been a wonderful session, and I'd like to thank Mrs. Sofodile. Bumi is here. I'm just here as well to learn. So maybe Bumi has things to say, and of course our program manager, Ms. Noya Sedi as well. If anyone has anything further to add.
Right. Thank you very much, Ma. They both had to jump on another meeting. But Miss Emily, thank you very much. Abby has said it all. It's been a very wonderful session. It's been engaging. People have come forth with questions and comments. It's been very engaging and we have all learned a lot. So I don't know if you have any other thoughts you would like to share, any final word or final remarks before we close the curtain.
Okay, my final word would be that we should all invest in women's rights, because women's rights are also human rights and needs to be upheld. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very beautiful. Women's rights are human rights and they need to be upheld. We're all human beings. And Abby mentioned that too when she talked about her experience in Zamfara State. So at this point, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has taken our time to stay till this very moment in the training. It's been very engaging and it's been disinteresting because we have all participated, listened in and keyed in our various spaces. And I hope that we're all able to join the next session, which is coming up very soon. More interesting topics to come, more interesting and engaging facilitators to come. Before that, we have a survey, a quick survey so if you can just take a few seconds to just answer the survey to enable us serve you better. So the survey should be on your screen now. And after the survey, we will close the curtain on the training. Thank you very much.